Hi everyone, so in this video we're going to go over some statistical measures that your calculator can calculate for you. So in the example on the left we'll look at question 1 first, where we're looking at finding some averages and some measures of spread for the number of pets that 7 different students have. So we've got our data here, and then questions A to C, there are a number of different statistical measures. Okay, on your calculator the first thing you're going to want to do is open a new spreadsheet. And then name your data. So we'll call this pets. And at the moment, I'm just doing the first question with one set of data. So I'll just input that data into my spreadsheet manually. Okay, now I've got my data. I'll just click somewhere outside it so I don't accidentally override it. And then basically all of the questions A, B, and C can all be done with one action. So if I go to Menu, Statistics, Statistical Calculations, and then one variable statistics. It's going to ask me how many lists of data I have. It's just one. Which is the list of data that I want to do it for? I've called it pets, so it's important to name your data so you remember what you're actually calculating the measures for. Frequency list for now, I'll just leave as 1. We'll see that in question 2 in a moment. And it's just the result column is just telling you when my results are going to come out, so make sure that doesn't overwrite anything. So if I just hit OK, your calculator will output a load of different statistical measures, and you just need to know where to look for each of the things that you need. So for part A, we're asked for the mean, median, and mode. So the mean is X bar. So the mean in this case is 1.71 to 3 significant figures. Sense check that looks reasonable based on the data. If we're interested in the median, if we scroll down a lot, we get to median X, which is 1. And you can sense check that if you arrange the orders in, if you arrange the numbers, in ascending order, the middle number should be 1. The only number or measure of average that your calculator can't give you is the mode. For that, you just need to look at the data and see which is the most common. In this case, 1 is the most common number, so 1 is the mode as well as the median. Okay, let's look through some of these other bits of data. So we've had the mean, median. The standard deviation is this funny sigma x symbol. So the standard deviation is 1.48. Your calculator doesn't give you the variance, so we're asked for the variance and the standard deviation, but we know that the variance is just the standard deviation squared. So if I square 1.48, that will give me my variance. And then lastly, the upper and lower quartiles. Q1 is my lower quartile, so that's 1 here. Q3 is my upper quartile, so that's 2. Again, like with the variance, the calculator doesn't just give you the interquartile range, but we know that it's Q3 minus Q1, so 2 minus 1, so the interquartile range is 1. So that's a relatively simple calculation, one click, and you can get almost all of the statistical measures that you need. Now let's have a look at how this changes slightly when we have a frequency table, so question 2. So let's close this and open a new spreadsheet. I close it and don't save so I can use the same variables and it won't get confused. So now I'm going to input my frequency table. Oh, it doesn't like it, it's too long. Let's call it frequency. Okay, so my options are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll just carefully copy in the associated frequencies. Okay, now note that although this is a table and it looks like we have 2 sets of data, this is still one variable statistics. There is only one variable that I'm collecting data on. If you imagine yourself doing the survey for this data, you would only ask each person in the year group one question. How many pets do you have? There's no other data or variables that you're collecting. When you record it, so that you don't have to write the number 0 13 times, you record the frequency, but there's only one variable, which is the number of pets. So we're still going to use the same thing. So for question 2, we want to do all of the same things, but when data is as a frequency table. Note that if you were given a grouped frequency table, so where I've got number of pets, these are whole numbers, single values. You may have an interval, so from 0 to 3, from 4 to 6. And for continuous data, you definitely will. If you have a group here, the only thing that changes is you take the mid-interval value. So if the number of pets was 0 to 2, the mid-interval value would be 1. That is all that changes. Okay, so I would input my mid-interval values as my first value if that were the case. And then everything else is the same. We go to menu, we go to statistics, statistical calculations, one variable statistics. My number of lists is still 1. I'm only looking at pets. My X list is the pets, and now I need to make sure I input the frequency list as the frequency. So name them carefully, check my results aren't overwriting any of my data. I hit OK. And again, I can see, okay, my mean this time is 1.80 to 3 significant figures. My standard deviation, this funny sigma, is 1.37 to 3 significant figures. If I squared that, I would get the variance. Lower quartile is 1, median is 2, upper quartile is 3. I could calculate my interquartile range, which is 2, because it would be 3, so the upper quartile 3 minus the lower quartile 1. So basically everything you need you can do on your calculator except for the mode. In the frequency table, the modal class, so in this case the highest frequency would be 2. Okay, we can see that from this table. So the highest frequency is the number of pets being 2. Everything else, you just need to be careful to type the data in correctly into your calculator.